Hi, welcome back to my channel. I applied to 10 UK unis. I think I have some experience. Let's get into it. So, first of all, I would like to say that I do not recommend applying to 10 universities. It's a lot of work, and I was in a different position than probably most of you will be. I was an international applicant with an international bachelor's degree. So for the application process, first thing you need to do is figure out what you want to do, because a bachelor's degree is pretty straightforward. It's a bachelor's, but then you need to continue into your master's, and there are actually several types of master's degrees. For example, there are taught ones and there are research ones. For example, an MA, which is a Master of Arts, is a taught one, and a Master of Philosophy is the research equivalent of the Master of Arts. Or if you want to do a PhD, for those usually you need to have a master. Step 2 is finding courses in universities, and I did that by Googling, by going to rankings, by going to websites such as findamasters.com and filling out stuff that I was interested in. I went to university websites and I browsed through a lot of course catalogs, and all of this information I kept in a spreadsheet, which was absolutely life-saving. Make a spreadsheet and just catalog all of the courses that you're interested in, all of the universities, all of the requirements they have, and work from there. It's a lifesaver. So when you're done searching for degrees, that will bring you to step 3, which is actually applying. For bachelor's degrees in the UK, people apply through UCAS, and yes, people apply through, for example, Common App. Unfortunately, for graduate students, there isn't a similar thing like it, and you have to apply separately to each university and each course. And it's a lot of work. And you can apply to as many universities as you want to. So there is no cap. In UCAS, for example, you can only apply to 5 universities, but for graduate students, there is no limit. One downside is to applying to each university separately is that all the applications are different. So unfortunately, you cannot write one personal statement and use that one for several universities, as they all have different requirements. Start ASAP on all of your applications. Usually they'll open up around September, and they have an autosave function, so just go ahead and fill out all of your personal details. That will save you some time later on. And just generally scroll through the entire thing and just see what they want you to submit, and all the things that you need, and the requirements, for example, for your personal statement, as everything will be different for every single university. And put all of that info in your wonderful little Excel sheet. It's a lifesaver. When you've done all of that, that will bring you to step 4, which is everything you need to provide. So this is more based on what I needed to provide in my application process. I applied for modern language degrees and comparative literature and French and Francophone studies, and I needed a bunch of stuff. These are the things that you'll probably need too, and maybe you need a couple extra ones, or maybe less. So the things I needed to provide were my transcript and my diploma, reference letters, my CV, a personal statement, a research proposal, 1 or multiple writing samples, and I needed to fulfill an English language requirement. So let me just go into a little bit more detail for each of those things individually and things that I found helpful. So I already graduated by the time I applied. However, I hadn't received my diploma yet, so unfortunately I was unable to upload it. So what I did, I asked my university to write a statement for me, and saying that I had graduated, and that's the thing that I ended up uploading, which was fine. So do that if you don't have your diploma yet, but you already graduated. In my experience, you tend to need either 1, 2, or 3 reference letters. If you have somebody in mind, ask this person way in advance. This will give this person time to think about what they want to write. It also gives you time to find somebody else if your first reference person is not going to be able to write a letter of recommendation or doesn't want to write a letter of recommendation. And pick somebody who really knows you, and also somebody who really likes you. It sounds like a natural thing to do, but make sure you pick somebody who knows you. Also try to find somebody who has experience in writing reference letters. This sounds maybe a bit odd to say, but I'm from a country where writing reference letters is not something that people use, especially not for universities. And then for your CV, make sure it lists all the things that you've done that are relevant for the thing that you're applying to. And then about the personal statement. So like I said before, every university needs a different one. It's really unfortunate, but it's just the case, and they all have different requirements. I came across like the shortest one that I need to write had a maximum of 325 words, while the longest one was 1,300 words. There is a huge in-between and variation in personal statement letters. One of the unis that I applied to actually did not have a personal statement, and they asked me to reply to a set of questions that they had in their application portal online, and they had like a maximum word count for every single one. And on the same level, some universities will not give you all those questions, but they will give you a separate sheet or put something online about what they want you to include in your personal statement. So make sure to try and Google and figure out what they want to read. What I did every single time when I wrote a personal statement, I tried to make sure that it was fitting the uni and the course, and I think that really helped me in getting into a lot of places. And I think most important of all, get someone to read your personal statement before you submit it, because you can reread it 100 times and there can still be some spelling mistakes in it. So make sure all of those are out and that it's all submitted and no grammar mistakes, no spelling issues, everything is fine. Because having a grammar mistake or a spelling mistake in your personal statement is just not a good representation of yourself. So just ask a parent, ask a friend, anyone, just ask people to read it for you and go over it and give you feedback on it. Is really helpful. Now for the research proposal, I found that one was more of a required thing for MPhil degrees or research degrees. Again, find out what the uni wants you to write in a research proposal, because that also varies a lot from university to university. It's a lot of doing research and try to put everything you find into your Google Excel file or your Microsoft Office Excel file, and try to keep it as organized as possible so you can just like work from there and talk about your research proposal with one of your current professors and try to go over it with them. So also start this one way early if you can, and just try and talk to them about it. And they'll give you feedback on it and they'll be happy to help out, especially if it's in their research area. And same thing as a personal statement, try to find some people to read your research proposal to make sure that there aren't any grammar or spelling mistakes in it, because you don't want to send something to a university that has a bunch of spelling mistakes in it. Then we have the writing samples. Most universities ask me to submit either 1 or 2. They varied between 2,000 and 4,000 words. However, I found that it was kind of always between that margin. There was nothing crazy, nothing really small, nothing really big. They were also not really particular on it. So let's say you have a great essay that's like 5,000 words. I don't think that they'll mind if you submit that. But in my case, I was applying for modern languages, specifically for French. Most of the writing samples that I submitted were in English. However, I needed to submit a couple in French too. Pick a writing sample that's relevant to the course that you're applying to, because people from the department will go over your writing sample, and if it's a writing sample that's talking about archaeology while you're applying for modern languages, they aren't really going to be able to judge it, and you may have a spectacular paper on archaeology but it's kind of off topic. So find a good paper that you got a good grade on and ask extra feedback by the professor who originally graded it, and explain to them that you want to submit this piece of work as a writing sample. And they may tell you to submit another piece that they thought is better, or they might agree with you, but they'll definitely will be able to give you more feedback on your writing sample. And then lastly, for the English language requirement, you do not need to submit it straight away, at least not at the 10 universities that I applied for. At the time of applying and submitting, I did not do any tests before I actually applied to university, simply because all of the universities have different standards for testing and different scores that you need to be able to achieve. So I figured it would be easier to know what score I needed to achieve when I get an offer from university, if that makes any sense. Also, check if you are eligible for a waiver, because it can save a lot of money and also a lot of extra work. Some unis, in my case, were actually able to accept my high school grade that I got for English as a language requirement, so check if that works for you too. Generally, I'd say that I found out that for TOEFL, they wanted you to score a 90 or above, and for YILTS, I'm not sure how to pronounce that one, at 6.5 or above. I took the TOEFL test and I just bought the prep book and I sat down and I just focused on it for 2 weeks straight, and I ended up scoring a 115 out of 120, which was more than I needed. But I would definitely recommend prepping for the test. Take a couple of practice tests and figure out the way the test works. It will definitely improve your test score. And that will bring me to step 5, which is submitting your application to the university you're applying to. Most of the universities that I applied for did not ask me to pay a fee, however 4 out of 10 actually did. The fees varied between £65 to £80, the most expensive one being UCL. I would 100% recommend trying to just submit all of your applications by Christmas, because most of the applications have either no deadline or a deadline somewhere in June or August even, which is absolutely crazy, and they just admit people on a rolling basis. So that means that if you were to apply all the way in August or May, for example, it might be that all places have already been filled up. And after Christmas, it's just crazy. There's just always a lot going on during Christmas, and I would just recommend trying getting done before Christmas so you can just breathe and focus on maybe your final exams if you need to take them after Christmas, And also just enjoy your Christmas break. If you're not able to apply before the Christmas break, I would 100% recommend trying to apply before the funding deadline, because most people will do that because people want to have funding for their degrees. So by the time the funding deadline hits, most people will have already applied. Some universities will admit people in batches first until the funding deadline, and then they'll continue on a rolling basis. And you really don't want to be in a situation where it's like, I don't know, March, and you're finally submitting your application and they only have 3 spots left and you just don't make the cut because you waited 2 days too long to apply for the course, which would be really unfortunate. Just don't wait until April, because courses might have filled up already or they will have very few places left. So after you've submitted your application, you are awaiting a decision, but some unis will reach out to you first with an invite for an interview. 3 out of 10 unis actually invited me for an interview. They all 3 gave me the option to do it online or in person. One of the unis that actually wanted to interview me, by the time I wasn't really interested in going anymore, so I decided to withdraw my application from that university, so I actually only went to 2 interviews. And my experience with the whole interviews were that they weren't really that hard, honestly. I expected a lot harder questions than I actually got. So I wouldn't stress too much about an interview. So after you have had your interviews, you're waiting on your actual decision, whether you get an offer or not, which will bring me to step number 7. Usually, if you are going to be extended an offer, you have 2 deadlines. The first deadline being usually about 4 weeks away, which deadline by which you need to accept or decline your offer, or otherwise it will expire. And the second deadline is around August, which is the one where you need to have met all of your conditions by in order to be able to take up your place at the university. I found out reading all of my offer letters that usually they'll ask you to pay a fee. One of the universities that I applied to asked me to pay a fee direct on accepting my offer. Other ones, you are agreeing on a contract that you'll pay the fee within like 2 weeks or so. Now a little bit more on conditions. Usually an offer will have an academic condition, which is the grade that you need to receive in order to be able to take up your place at the university. Mine also had an English language requirement on it with the grade that I needed to achieve, but that's only the case when you're an international like me. Another common one is that you need to show your original transcript at the university. If you already have one and you have graduated, you can just send them an email, set them an appointment, or just pop into the admissions office, show them your official transcript, and you're all set. The last one usually is a criminal convictions declaration. You can fill it out online, and you have to disclose whether or not you have had any relevant issues with the law. After you've gotten your offer, you will need to decide whether or not you want to accept or decline your offer, which will bring me to step number 8, accepting or declining. Like I mentioned earlier, there might be the possibility for you that you need to pay a fee upon accepting your offer. Usually you will have 14 days to change your mind for free. So let's say you have paid your deposit and then you've gotten an offer last minute from another university and that was your dream school, you can still change it. You can fill out a form, usually online, or you download it, fill it out, scan it, send it, and then they'll refund you your fee and you can withdraw from accepting your offer, if that makes any sense. Also, my major advice, being in a bunch of chat groups with a lot of people, and some people will be put on a waiting list. So if you have received an offer from a university that you are sure of that you won't be attending, decline your offer as soon as possible. Because if you decline your offer, then somebody else can take your spot, and somebody else can be taken off the wait list, or some other person who was otherwise going to be declined can actually get your spot on the course. I really hope this video was helpful. I wish I could find one like this when I was applying. Unfortunately, there wasn't. If you have any other questions, please leave it down below. Please help each other out if you have something to add. Also check out all of my other videos, and if you want to see where I'm going to uni, I made a reveal video so you can actually see where I'm going. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you later.